Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
While we are introducing these stories to new generations, it's still about robots in disguise. And if you are within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with, once more, as always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do. You can subscribe to the podcast because, well, if you haven't already, because you're listening right now, we're pretty much available on all platform providers. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, pretty much everywhere. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram. You guessed it, we're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, guess what? We love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we are jumping onto the Paramount Plus streaming platform, which is available everywhere now. It is a fantastic service, and we do recommend you check it out. But we're getting into a bit of an old favorite with a new generation of heroes. It's from Nickelodeon. It's Transformers Earthspark, which has begun streaming on the Paramount Plus service, and new episodes are coming every week, if I am not mistaken. But it's based on the iconic Transformers property, obviously. It's a brand new animated action comedy series. It's called Transformers Earthspark, and it introduces a new generation of Transformers robots, the first Transformers robots to be born on Earth, and together with the human family who welcomes them in and cares for them, they'll redefine what it means to be a family. This captures the spirit of the original Transformers, but it's family friendly as well, and it's just a lot of fun. And we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with not one, not two, but three of the voice actors who star in the show. The one only Danny Pudi, who from people would know from Community, he gets to play Bumblebee. We talked to Mr. Alan Tudyk. And we talked to the young Sydney Mikayla about sort of their roles in the show and, honoring the place that Transformers has in the pop culture universe, because it's an important one. It's a big one. But like I said, go sign up for Paramount Plus because it is a fantastic service. And watch Transformers Earthspark if you feel like revisiting some classics with some old friends like those robots in disguise, like I said before. But first, enjoy our talk with Alan, Danny, and Sydney, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. Now, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, congratulations on the show, and thank you so much for the time today.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Now, I guess my first question is probably for you, Danny and Alan, because, I mean, we are gentlemen of a similar age, and growing up in the 80s, Transformers was very much sort of a part of our pop culture lexicon. And I mean, you guys are playing these legacy characters, and I'm kind of curious, how do you sort of block out what was and sort of create your own space as you're jumping into a show like this?
Transformers definitely was vivid memories of Transformers as a child, playing with the toys with my brother, and it is to be able to play Bumblebee, an iconic character. It's very exciting. There is also that feeling of like, how do I make this new? How do I protect the legacy of this beloved franchise and character? So thankfully, I just had to walk in and do my normal voice. I didn't have to do too much. I showed up with some ideas of how I wanted Bumblebee to be. Did they want a more robotic version of Bumblebee? But turns out they didn't. And I'm very grateful for that. So that way I could just bring my own authentic self to the role. And I think that's my version of it, is I'm pretty much speaking as myself as Bumblebee and bringing my own neuroses to the role, which is really exciting. And I get to make some punching sounds and jumping efforts and kick sounds and yeah! And that's new and thrilling for me.
For me, it's I definitely never thought of ever being Optimus Prime. That seems, like in my acting work, I don't tend to play the general, the leader, the guy. I'm the guy who's next to the leader, going, I don't think this is a good idea. It was thrilling. I mean, I asked, they assured me we're doing things a little differently, so don't freak out, because I do have the original in my head, and I can't wipe that away. I don't want to. That's I've cherished memories, but there are certain things about Optimus Prime that maintain throughout. He's very large. He's a truck. He's the leader. He says things like "roll out," and it all starts to just. He can't talk too fast. We talk way too fast. It's something. He's a smaller robot. He has to be someone who commands authority and has a strong moral compass, and is doing things for the right reasons, and carries a bit of a weight with being the leader. So those things inform the voice, and the script itself is the ultimate navigator, because what we're saying is what our characters are doing, is who they are. So I've asked for things like, can I just have my left blinker on just for one episode? Like, every time you see him, he's got one blinker. They're like, Optimus. Oh, blinker, I forgot. Or just like have a seabird wedged into the grill of his truck. I didn't see it. I thought it was moved. But they've assured me, no, that's not keeping with the character. We don't need to go that different.
Yeah, I don't have honey draped all over my shoulder, which was my request.
Right.
Just a glob of honey on Bumblebee's shoulder, but they said that's the stickiness would kind of get in the way
too
of
little.
any,
He's not
shifting of modes.
He's not an actual Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Sydney, I guess my question for you is sort of the opposite of that. How do you carve your own space sort of in this very established sort of world of the Transformers?
That's a great question. I think I'm just trying to keep Robbie as realistic as possible. Like I said, I think the magic of all the Transformers iterations is that kids can feel like they relate to that feeling of being like an outsider coming in. And so I wanted to include that with Robbie. My dad's also from Philly, so including some of that like swag as well from Philly, because Robbie's got that going on. So all those layers, I just put into Robbie, and I'm glad that I think it turned out well. So I'm excited.
Now, Alan, I've got to ask, how does the Transformers experience change from being on set to versus being in a sound booth?
Yeah, I got to meet Optimus Prime, the truck, like when he's they pulled him up, and I was a bit in awe. You're like, wow, this is Optimus Prime in truck form. How cool. I was checking him out. Cool. Yeah, it's a lot more chill. It moves a lot faster when you're not doing all the action sequences. John Turturro, we need to get John in this. That was fun. I liked that a lot. The people they would get for those movies was insane. It's like Francis for that movie. John Turturro, I was working with, I was his right-hand man, so I was just constantly at his side. But then it was Francis McDormand and who else? John Malkovich was in it. I mean, the actors see with all these people. And then Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who's a Victoria's Secret model, was her fame at the time. It was like, this is such an odd thing. Yeah, that was a circus. This is more like something it's a lot easier. Not as many highs and lows as a circus.
No, I mean, Danny, I'm curious. Like you said, as you were saying before, you got to make your own sort of action noises. Do you get to see what the movement's going to be like, or do you have to sort of imagine things when you're going into the booth on something like this?
That's a good question. It's a two-step process. I think initially you make those noises. We'll read the script. So we'll read the script, and then you imagine what that would be like, and then our voice director Christy is amazing, and she'll kind of talk us through here in this moment. We need some efforts here. You need some jumping noises, some grunts, some grimacing, some forceful punches, some lighter punches, some gentle scolding, and you do those, and then you come in for a second round of vocal work, which is called ADR, and that point you're matching it oftentimes with the animation, which is incredible, and it's like the next wave of storytelling. And that's really cool because you get to actually see some of the images and what they look like, and that could change some of it. Sometimes the drop is a lot further than your initial, like, oops. Then you're like, no, this is more like a, yeah! Sorry for the screaming. So some of the animation changes definitely your vocal performance. That's really fun too, because it's like, oh, I didn't imagine that. This is cool to see what they came up with.
Now, I mean, Sydney, for you, I've got to imagine it's a different process because not only are you portraying your character, but you're reacting to the crazy things that are going on as well. Like, how do you sort of envision that when you're in the booth?
Oh, I mean, it definitely can be difficult because we're doing actions that like I've never really thought of before. Like, it'll be not Robbie just punching, but Robbie doing something in relation to something else, and it's like obviously a situation it's not really even fathomable for me sometimes. So just trying to like get into my body like what that would be like, and then just acting it out. I mean, it really just comes down to imagination. So it's not always easy, but it's really fun to figure it out when we do.
Now, I mean, for all of you, can you talk a little bit about the joy of just being in the same room together right now? Because, I mean, again, when you're doing sort of an animated series, I can imagine there's a bit of a disconnect and you don't feel that sort of team camaraderie when you're making a project.
Yeah, I mean, well, I stalked all of my cast on IMDb. I'm not even gonna lie. So being like next to everyone, I'm always like fangirling, like very secretly. But yes, I'm so excited to be next to Alan and Danny. It's amazing.
Same.
Well, I mean, Danny and Sydney, obviously, you guys have a bit of a connection because obviously one of Sydney's early credits was on Community, so that was
Oh
it's
yeah,
nice to
I
bring
was
somebody.
on Community.
Okay, so
You didn't know?
first of all, this is our first time meeting, so
Yeah,
there's
so-
still a lot of conversations we need to have. But you
Yeah.
were in Community?
So Yvette is my mom and like very close friend. She's like basically my auntie. Like I love Yvette so much. So when we were little, her goddaughter, my close friend, and also me, she put me on Community on the choir episode.
Yes.
On Christmas.
You were in that?
Yeah, we're singing, trying to convince you guys to love Christmas or something.
That's
we
amazing.
never met though.
Oh
and
my god. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah,
But
I
now
remember.
we
Yeah.
met. But yeah, I guess I
Wow.
was on Community. I maybe should have opened up with that. I think I forgot I was on Community.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh my
well-
gosh. Wow.
But you know what, Danny, Alan, Sydney, just congrats on the work and thank you so much for the time today. I can't wait for people to see this show. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, we so appreciate it. Thank you very
man.
much.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.